Hey, how's it going? Why don't we talk about some more lost characters? Don't worry, next week we'll do some different things. But for now, let's go over some lost characters. Characters who have gone missing throughout TV, movies, video games, and even fast food. I'm your host, Larry Zeepsterd, and it's good to be back. If you want a sequel to this video, get this to 5,000 likes, and please subscribe. I really appreciate all of you guys. The fact that I'm able to do this as a job is a dream come true of mine. Seriously, without you, I don't know where I would be. And I mean that genuinely. Let's get this started. But before we get into that, let's talk about today's sponsor, World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a free-to-play game with over 100 million players worldwide that you can play on your PC. With over 600 tanks, destroyers, artillery, and even light, medium, and heavy tanks, there are so many ways to play this fun game. Dude, you could drive your tanks across open fields, deserts, climb steep hills, go through forests and sneak around, and play your matches in urban and industrial zones. Yeah, there's over 40 arenas. There is a lot to play. And also guys, I got my bachelor's degree in history, and let me just say the historical accuracy and inspiration is top-notch and authentic, with so many models and vehicles making you feel like you're in a real tank. Dude, you can even earn, experience, modify, and upgrade your tank to make it suitable to your needs. Download World of Tanks using the first link in the description, and if you register now using the promo code TANKMANIA, you will get a free 7 days premium account, 250,000 credits, the premium tank Excelsior, and 3 rental tanks for 10 battles each. Thanks to World of Tanks for sponsoring this video. Roger and Jessica Rabbit. Okay, so back in 1988, there was this little movie release called Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was pretty good. Yeah, I know, I'm not exactly breaking any new ground when I discuss how revolutionary this film was, but really the entire presentation is extraordinary. Set in Hollywood 1947, Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a murder mystery following a private detective who could really care less about tunes after a tune character killed his brother. In the movie, he investigates Roger Rabbit when it is suspected that Rabbit had gone and killed a human being after growing jealous over his wife, Jessica Rabbit, being romantically involved with this human being. Via trials and tribulations, Detective Eddie Valiant learns to become close to the tunes and even grow a liking to both Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit. Roger Rabbit was first introduced in the novel Who Censored Roger Rabbit, released in 1981. Of course, the book would later be adapted to a feature film, but it would contain major differences. For one, the novel version of Roger Rabbit is a little more adult, indulging in alcoholic drinks such as the fictional Toonshine. While the novel version of Jessica Rabbit, who is very loving to Roger in the movie, actually speaks badly of Roger in the novel, even divorcing him. The book is very political. It has parallels to segregation, to tunes being responsible for building the American Railroad, alongside humans just seeing the tunes as just lesser beings. Another major difference, and this is a giant spoiler alert for the book, but Roger Rabbit actually just dies. He gets shot multiple times, being found slunched over with multiple gunshot wounds. That's right, in the book, tunes could die without the use of the dip, the thing used in the movie to make it capable to kill the cartoon characters. There's a bunch of other crazy plot points. For one, there's this magic genie who's like this homicidal maniac who kills people. It's insane. But what we really need to talk about here is Roger and Jessica Rabbit and their merits of their characters, as seen both in the novel and the movie. Of course, Roger Rabbit is as zany as he is in the book and films, and Jessica Rabbit is also seductive, as most people know her for being. I mentioned the books because they were important for the future of Roger and Jessica Rabbit's character. Once the movie released and was a massive success, the author loved the film so much, he chose to retcon the first book when he created his second novel by stating that the entire events of the first book were all a part of a bad Jessica Rabbit dream. The second and third books serve as sequels to the movie, not the first book. From what I've read from the first novel, it is very dark. The polar opposite to the actual movie, which has a more optimistic ending, as opposed to a bit of a downer of the first novel. And this is where we discuss Roger and Jessica Rabbit's appearances after the movie. They were incredibly popular characters. They would appear in various theatrical shorts all throughout the 1990s, including cameos in the show Tiny Toon Adventures.
Please, you have to let me on your show. I got to keep my wife in glitter paint.
With their most recent appearance being in their third novel in 2013, Who Whacked Roger Rabbit? Let me just make something clear. According to the author, these stories are non-canonical to the first film. They're kind of more for funsies. That being said, in the 35 years since the film's release, diehard fans have clamored for a sequel. And at this point, I must state something. Roger and Jessica Rabbit aren't really lost. I've been requested multiple times to cover these two, but they've appeared in media quite recently. For example, Roger Rabbit recently appeared in the Chips and Dale movie, which came out in 2022, and Jessica Rabbit even became a detective in an updated segment for the Roger Rabbit ride in Toontown Disneyland. I guess you could say Jessica and Roger Rabbit are lost in the minds of people who really want a canonical sequel to the first film. And this is when things get complicated. There may be fans who want a sequel, but there are also a good segment of fans who plead and hope that a sequel never gets made. The bunny caught the hearts of millions worldwide, leading to producers to discuss the potential for a second film. The shorts in the early 1990s, which contained Roger Rabbit, were meant to keep the character alive, while talks for the second film, which was hopefully going to be released by 1992, were being made. Initially, however, producers thought about making a prequel to the movie instead, which would take place during World War II, and would discuss Roger Rabbit's rise to fame. Personally, I thought this idea was interesting, as the original plot involved Roger Rabbit going to Axis-occupied Europe and satirizing the Germans, which led to Steven Spielberg, who's going to potentially work on the project, drop out of ideas for the prequel, as he could not in good conscience make this film, as he was about to create Schindler's List, a film about the Holocaust. Plans kept being discussed, but most of them ended up dying. Robert Zemeckis, the director of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, would be asked in 2018 if a potential sequel would ever be made, to which he replied that there was a terrific script out there, but he didn't think it was on Disney's radar anymore, since it had been such a long time. Personally, I'm fine with the movie being a standalone. I don't think it needs a sequel. It tells a great story. People still talk about it to this day. And if there was going to be a sequel, I would have rather it be made back in '92 than today in the year 2023. To me, the story of Roger and Jessica Rabbit, it's done. Finished.
Come on, Roger, let's go home. I'll bake you a carrot cake.
Kadabra from Pokemon. Yeah, I know, Kadabra isn't really lost in the video games, but much like Porygon in our past video, an incident occurred which caused Kadabra to be banned in both the Pokemon anime and trading card games for almost 2 decades. So Kadabra, well, what can I say about him? He's the evolution to Abra and the pre-evolution to Alakazam. And in Generation 1 of the Pokemon games, he was overpowered like every other psychic type. In the Kanto region, there's a Pokemon gym leader that goes by the name of Sabrina, who's known as the master of psychic Pokemon. She's had psychic powers ever since she was a kid. In fact, when she was a child, she bent a spoon, similar to one of her Pokemon, Kadabra, who holds spoons. Which, let me just mention this here, is also similar to the real-life magician, Uri Geller, who gained notoriety over bending spoons as well. So here's the thing, that wasn't just something he did, that was one of his biggest claims to fame, bending a spoon. Okay, so back in 1999, he saw Kadabra, and he was not happy, taking Nintendo to court, trying to sue them for 60 million pounds, translating to 85 million US dollars. Geller thought Kadabra was an unauthorized parody of himself, even going as far to state, quote, "Nintendo turned me into an evil, occult Pokemon character," unquote. Yeah, you wanna know why he thought this? He thought Kadabra's design was anti-Semitic. He deemed the lightning bolts on Kadabra's stomach and the star on the Pokemon's forehead to resemble the logo of the Waffen-SS. You know, think of Germany 1940s World War II. Sorry, I can't say who they actually were without this video being demonetized. It's stupid, I know. As for other things that resembled him, he used the argument that the Japanese translation of his name was similar to the Japanese translation of Kadabra, stating that Nintendo stole his identity by using his name and signature image. The Pokemon anime director, Masamitsu Hideka, said in an interview that Kadabra would not be used in the Pokemon trading card games, or even the anime, until an agreement for the case was reached. In the US, Kadabra has only appeared 5 times in the Pokemon trading card game, being forever locked to only appear in the video games. Well, this was the case until the year November 2020, when Geller issued an apology, stating that Nintendo could start using his likeness again, and would allow Kadabra to be brought back into the card games. In January of 2023, it was announced that Kadabra would finally be returning to the Pokemon card game, after just about 20 years, wow. In fact, I'd even go as far to state that this is also a redemption story. To coincide with the re-release of Kadabra, Geller issued a statement, reading this: "Hi my dear friends, I am pleased Pokemon fans are excited to see Kadabra return to the card game. Look, I want to thank the Pokemon fans who reached out to me over the last few years. So basically it was you and my granddaughters that got me to change my mind. Now we can all see Kadabra reunited with the original Pokemon in the card game this summer. I love you all. And I admit, totally open and honest, I was a fool. It was a devastating mistake for me to sue Pokemon. Kadabra was basically a tribute to Uri Geller, but it's back now. Forgive me. I love you all. Much love and energy. All's well, it ends well. Yeah, I guess you could say Kadabra isn't exactly lost anymore. But I still chose to cover this because it's an interesting story, and an instance where I could give hope to people who are waiting for potential lost characters to return, to hold out hope that maybe one day they may come back. Glad to see you again, Kadabra. A special thanks to the commenter, Dylan Thiel, for recommending Kadabra. Pip from South Park. British people in the state of Colorado. Now that is something you don't see every day. You know, when it came to Pip, it made him more of a unique character. I liked that. Albeit as unique as he possibly could be with Pip, who's basically a bunch of British stereotypes all rolled into one. Personally, when it came to Matt Stone and Trey Parker, I think this was deliberate of them, as Pip was just like mistreated often and bullied. The thing about Pip that makes him interesting is that he was more of a major character in the early seasons of the show, even appearing in the unaired pilot, which was made in 1997, so he had been there since the beginning. I mean, Pip did have some funny moments, albeit there weren't really him making any jokes, it was just him getting completely owned over and over again. It was awesome.
Good day, Damien. My name is Philip, but everyone calls me Pip because they hate me.
Then I will call you Pip.
Righto.
I liked his presence as a character, but the thing about Pip is that his entire character was just being the punching bag. After season 5, however, this changed dramatically. Butters, who had been introduced in the series prior, became more prominent. Once appearing frequently, Pip began to be sidelined, rarely appearing at all, and then eventually just being completely gone from the show for seasons at a time. Finally, in the episode 201 released in 2010, Pip finally came back. And what happened, you may ask? Well, he died.
My name is Pip. I would like to see if you wouldn't mind not smashing our little town to bits.
This is where I gotta be honest to you guys. I've been requested Pip multiple times, and I'm just gonna say this, I don't think he's really lost. He's just dead. He's not coming back. Ever since this episode, he's made multiple cameos, mostly referencing the fact that he's dead and no longer part of this earth. For example, in the South Park game, The Stick of Truth, Pip's skull could be found in the files. Despite this, even Pip is treated badly by the show's creators. Matt and Trey Parker have stated that Butters is basically a better character than Pip and does everything Pip does, but way funnier. Guys, I have to be honest, I would agree with the creators, if it wasn't for the fact that a part of me does kind of feel bad for Pip. If you look at the comments for clips containing quote-unquote Pip's funniest moments, a lot of them say how adorable he was and how they miss the character. It probably makes the fact that he had like one of the most gruesome deaths in the series just even worse. Did he deserve better? Maybe, but you know, there are other characters in South Park that we just haven't seen for like decades on end. I will say this, Pip definitely had his time to shine. There's actually a season 4 episode of the show all about Pip, with the episode being titled Pip, and it follows the story of Pip trying to become a gentleman towards this woman he loves named Estella. It had been previously established that Pip was an orphan and also a commoner.
You see, my parents are dead.
Your parents are dead? God damn you, suck, Pip.
He visits the graves of his parents in this episode, only to be greeted by an escaped convict, and out of the goodness of Pip's heart, he decides to aid the convict in cutting off his handcuffs. Soon after, Pip meets this girl named Estella, who just ridicules Pip at first. Time eventually passes, and Pip falls for Estella hard. The rest of the episode basically has Pip suffering and wishing for the love of this girl, only for her to say that she cannot love. Eventually, Pip tries to gift her multiple bunnies, but she just keeps killing every single one of the bunnies until she gets to the 26th one, and at that point she's just like, I'm not gonna kill this one, and Pip's just like, aha, see, you can't kill that bunny because you actually have a heart. There is somewhat of a happy ending, he does get the girl, but like, I don't know, the way to get in there is just like suffering for Pip, because the convict that he helped cut the handcuffs to ends up becoming a millionaire, but the convict just eventually dies via acid, so it's just basically insulting the good deeds Pip does. It is so excessive. At this point, I just find it funny how ridiculously over the top the writers treat Pip so badly. Thanks to the YouTube comment by Cute Bianca for recommending this character. On to something else more positive. Fido Dido. This guy, I just really like this guy's design. So let me introduce you to something. Do you guys remember the show Angela Anaconda, created by Joanne Farone and Sue Rose? Trust me, you're gonna need this background information to understand the creation of Fido Dido. I remember watching some of it in reruns when I was a kid. And you know, when you're a kid, you look at the show and you automatically think, oh, this is a girl's show. Well, for the creators, it wasn't a girl show, more so a kid's show. It was made with the intention to go beyond gender norms. The show was based on this 8-year-old girl named Angela. In episodes, she often faced antagonists who end up bullying her for not acting like the others. She gets angry, imagines herself in masculine situations such as a football player, and even views herself himself in feminine ways. This was deliberate by the creators, Johan and Sue. As a matter of fact, the both of them are LGBT, with a lot of subtle LGBT commentary in between each episode. Unfortunately, when it comes to this show being discussed, many tend to just make fun of it due to the art style, and to some of the episodes, and I'm being honest here, being a little annoying. Not only that, what also led to even more hate to this show was that when the Digimon movie was coming out to theaters, before the film began, a short starring Angela premiered, and a lot of kids saw this and thought it was dumb, so they started making fun of it and hating on the show as they just wanted to watch their Digimon movie. You know, I get it. When you're a kid, you just want to watch your Digimon movie. You don't care about Angela. Come on, I want to see Agumon here. With context now provided, you may be surprised to hear that Fido Dido was actually created by both Johan and Sue on a napkin in 1985. In fact, according to the creators, Fido was based off a gay friend of theirs.
A friend of mine, John, who was an adorable little blonde-haired gay boy, and Sue did a caricature of him on a beverage nap. I noticed that everyone sitting around thought it was super cute. They really liked it. It was attractive to people.
The character has a very simple but cool design, one that became very popular in New York, eventually being found on t-shirts and being widely sold. I do find it kind of funny how he does wear a white t-shirt that just has a minimalist version of his face. A little self-absorbent, I know, but I still think it's kind of cool. In 1987, Fido was licensed by the Pepsi company to begin advertising 7-Up, having the ability to alter reality in television adverts all in the name and glory of the 7-Up soda. This guy is just so cool. I love him so much. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but seriously, in researching this video, I've had his theme song, which plays alongside the commercials, just in the back of my head on like loop. It's very catchy. In the early 1990s, Fido would continue to appear in sponsorship bumpers in between Saturday morning cartoons on CBS to much popularity. Fido would be most popular outside of the United States, while in the US, the one who would advertise 7-Up for the most part was a character, Cool Spot. Eventually, in 1995, Fido went away. Fido even had a group of friends and family that would every now and then appear in the various commercials advertising the soda. I mean, these guys were really popular. There were a bunch of figures of like each one of them as well. I am not underestimating Fido's presence in the cultural memory of the 1990s. Eventually, Fido would come back from the mid-2000s to around the early 2010s for even more commercials, but this time he was mostly in CGI. And people who were diehard Fido fans, they didn't like this, because for them, what made Fido so special was that he was like this two-dimensional character interacting with the real world. People thought that's what made him cool, a hand-drawn character coming to life, similar to, say, Roger Rabbit. I find this kind of interesting, because the creators of Fido would eventually, of course, make Angela Anaconda, which had characters who had real-life characteristics such as real human faces being displayed in a 2D setting. So much respect to the creators of both these projects, because it served for incredibly unique art styles. While researching this video, I spent like an hour of my time looking at like Fido commercials and just really appreciating the creativity behind each one of these. A lot of love was given to this character, and although I don't appreciate Angela Anaconda to the same degree, I appreciate the imagination and subtlety between most of the stories the show had to offer. In my mind, I like to think Fido Dido and Angela Anaconda go hand in hand, between creators who were truly passionate about their projects. Fido Dido was lost for a couple years, but then he came back. In fact, his last animated ad was in 2021. So could you call him lost? Well, he was, but then he was found again. I don't imagine we've seen the last of Fido Dido. For now, I'd like to think he's taking a rest, because a character as significant as he was will surely come back one day.
Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper.
The Burger King Kids. Listen guys, I've talked about McDonald's so much in these Lost Character episodes. And you know, maybe it's time to show some other fast food chains some love, especially McDonald's arch nemesis, Burger King. I don't really go to Burger King anymore, but when I do, I always get the Whopper, because it's honestly a pretty solid burger. That being said, when I think of Burger King, I only think about really just the king as the mascot, while when it comes to McDonald's, I think about Grimace, the Hamburglar, not just Ronald McDonald, because McDonald's was great at marketing these other characters and even giving nostalgia to them. I mean, most recently, they've been advertising these Hamburglar and Grimace backpacks that are honestly pretty cool. And this isn't a sponsor from McDonald's, I genuinely mean this. But McDonald's, if you do want to sponsor me, I'll take the money, I'm down. What most tend to forget is that Burger King tried to advertise other characters, most notably in the 1990s, with a series of characters who've been largely forgotten about. I'm talking about the Burger King Kids, requested by a friend of mine, Gary. Let me introduce you to the chaotic Burger King Kingdom. While McDonald's had some of these monster characters to advertise their burgers, Burger King chose a route and where they thought they would appeal to more kids if they actually used children themselves in advertising their kids' meals. The most prominent kid in this animated group would be Kid Vid, a tall boy with blonde hair, who was always wearing these futuristic goggles of sorts, with lightning stripes on his shoulders, and looking like the embodiment of what corporate America thought was cool in the 1990s. Other characters included Boomer, who was this hockey player, who was more tomboyish and loved sports. You had IQ, who was this incredibly smart kid who would always have these inventions. Jaws, who loved the outdoors and loved his Burger King burgers. Snaps, who was a photographer. And here's the thing about Burger King, they wanted to make things really inclusive and have this cast of characters be very diverse, so they decided to add a paraplegic. You know, I understand, that's pretty neat, but I think an issue I have here is that his name is Wheels. Of course he's in a wheelchair, and he's a mechanic, it's cool, but I don't know, I find it a little inappropriate that his name is Wheels. Kind of just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. You have JD, the dog, Jazz, who likes jazz music. Yeah, they were really trying to appeal to all sorts of kids. For 9 years, Burger King really pushed these characters, even establishing a real Burger King Kids Club and where children could join in, and in return get coupons for free burgers, and also get magazines, which would have all these games containing the characters on them. Burger King tried hard to make this work. You'd get like toys back in return if you signed up to be part of the Kids Club, and the fact that it went on for so many years showed that they had a lot of faith to this project. As the campaign went on and kept being used less and less, eventually leading to the end of the Kids Club officially in 2005. The entire existence of the Kids Club was obviously meant to just relate to children, actual kids, and not, relating to a clown. The thing is that you can't really beat the Grimace or the Hamburglar, and especially not Ronald McDonald. It's not to say the Kids Club wasn't popular, it was. I mean, it lasted a while for a reason. It's just, by the time 2005 rolled around, Burger King was ready to market with something new, and that was a common theme in this episode of Lost Characters. Characters who just really had their time to shine and were ready to just end. And that's okay, sometimes we don't need them to come back. Except for Fido Dido, I want to see more of him. I love you guys, subscribe to Zeepstered, like this video, until next time.